Welcome back, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to talk to a good friend and an esteemed colleague and one of the greats in the Australian property data industry, Luke from Microburbs. Good to
Thank
see
you
you
very
again.
much for having me, John.
Yeah, likewise, mate. I'm really excited by this topic today. AI, something that we both love and both enjoying, and I really want to understand where you think AI is going to take our understanding of data in the property industry. And I'm going to ask you the first question. How is AI currently transforming the way buyers, sellers, and agents interact with the property market?
Yeah, excellent question. So AI has been already having a big impact in the property market, and looking forward, it is the big thing. So if you want to understand where the property market's going over the next 5 to 10 years, you need to understand AI more than anything else. So some people might think of AI as like ChatGPT, but actually there's a lot more to it. There's a lot been going on for a long time, and it's a bit of a fuzzy term, AI. So I'd like to get a bit of definition work out in the beginning. What is AI and how can you break it up? So first of all is like matching. So if you think of it as like a comparative market appraisal where you've got a sold property in mind and it matches to, a for sale property in mind and it matches to previously sold properties. So it's using some sort of clever fuzzy matching kind of thing. It can also be for a real estate agent. So their software tells them who's the next person to call and what to say. And we also have an AI property finder where it's using all these complex weights behind the scenes, but for the user, it's just providing the most relevant properties based on all kinds of criteria like public housing and forecast growth and things. So there's all of this weighting that happens behind the scenes. So obviously, comparative market appraisals are fantastic for working out the valuation of a property. And you'd be surprised how much real estate agents are using this stuff as well. And then you've got reports that are bringing stuff together from many sources, and increasingly they're put together by AIs as well. Then so that's the matching kind of AI. Then you've got predictive. So that's like coming up with some number that will hopefully occur in the future. So one is predicting the price of a house. So that could be what is the price of a particular property going to achieve if it's sold today. Yeah, so looking at all the things, number of bedrooms and looking at other properties that had sold. So we have an automated valuation model that gets it on average within 5% of the sale price for listed properties. So by the time people see this, you'll be seeing this highly accurate valuation model that it took a lot of work to get that accurate. And then there's forecasting. So actually being able to predict further into the future on a suburb level. So how much growth will a particular suburb achieve? And in our case, we used a stock market-like back-tested algorithm to achieve that. So that's really big. So it takes the guesswork out of it, takes the biases out of it if it's done well. And so people will flock to those and buy into those places. So you can end up with much quicker adaptation, much quicker responsiveness to market conditions. And so another thing we do is we got coming out is the likelihood of public housing on an individual property level. So this is something totally new, and I'm announcing this now. So we've had public housing on a pocket level forever, but individual properties. So using AI to work out what's the chance that it's public housing. And from what I've seen, it's a very good model at doing that. So that's predictive, where you get a particular number. And then finally, you've got generative AI. So this is what the new wave of AI that people think of, the chatbots, ChatGPT and Grok, etc. So you can use them. You can talk to them about real estate, and they will give you an answer. And their thing is more about predicting the next word or predicting a pixel on a photo. So another use of it is a renovation simulator. So tell me what it would look like if I make this big renovation or Tell me what it would look like to just do this minor interior decoration, and it will
Wow.
produce them. So that takes a lot of the guesswork out. People can visualize what they want, and I would imagine that would lead to a lot more demand in that, because everyone can see it. Hubby and wife can both see it and agree on what it's going to look like. And yeah, so
Yeah, wow, man. You've thought about this a bit, Luke. Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, there's so many angles that AI is going to influence. It's the real estate agents and what they're doing. It's a comparative market analysis and what can be done with that. There's renovations that you just mentioned. But I do want to talk a little bit more about what impact AI-driven predictive analysis will be on property valuations and market forecasting. Those two in particular. Do you want to focus a little bit more on those?
absolutely, yeah. So valuations are getting more accurate. Like our AVM is within 5% of the sale price. So it's taking in the images as well. A really important thing, though, is to be careful what these algorithms are optimized for. So if they're optimized for just getting the best price, then that's excellent. But other algorithms can be optimized just for making a sale, making you buy the property, making you sign up to a buyer's agent, for example. So that, and it's unfortunate that the kinds of places that have the best stories about them are not necessarily the best kinds of places to buy. Often it doesn't have the best story. It's not the way that the AI is thinking. Yeah, so there is an abundance of data, and I think a really exciting thing is also for us that has always been back testers. So we've always gone all the way back and proven that our models work. The abundance of data and the ability to look back on the past I think will make forecasters more accountable for their previous forecasts. So increasingly people will just say, well, what's your record? Yeah. How well have you done in the past? And let that be the best judge, as opposed to, how many friends you have in the industry, how well you present. Yeah.
How confident you sound.
How confident you sound.
Yeah.
Very important. Yeah. Currently very important.
So in summary, in terms of this AI predictive analytics on property valuations and market forecasting, you're suggesting that it's going to get a lot more accurate in those two domains.
Yes. So particularly property valuations is easiest because it's short term. So you know straight away. There are in long-term forecasting, like it's complex. At a macro level, it's complex anyway. So there's things like, what's going to happen in Ukraine, or the Chinese shadow banking market and things. But both of them, we get around that problem by forecasting relative to the overall market. So we're less in the business of predicting the macro. But yes, absolutely. So broadly speaking, the software of AI that you get is just way smarter these days. The algorithms are smarter, and there's more data out there, and they're able to draw ever more abstract links between things, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So the positive side is that you can just prove that it's more accurate, but you have to be careful also that you can understand how it came to it. So the auditability gets less. So if you have something like a neural net is a very complex network of all these little deciding little neurons. I won't get into the technical detail, but basically it's like a very complex way of making a decision, going through all kinds of paths, and it's harder to actually work out what it's doing. So there are risks for banks, particularly because they need auditable AIs. There's risks in what's actually happening. How are they making their decisions?
Yeah, right. Fascinating. This is fascinating, mate. Property valuations as a buyer's agent is really important to me, and obviously market forecasting is for everybody. And look, can I ask you? Let's move on to another question that's burning in my head. In what ways could AI-powered virtual tours and augmented reality change the property inspection and buying process?
Yeah, so super convenient for people who are a long distance buyer. So we saw a lot of this in COVID, and it's continued where people are buying outside their area. So typically your own area, your own LGA is not
How
the
good
best
is
place
that?
to buy.
How good's that, right?
Yeah.
Such a good thing.
Yeah. So it leads to a much more fair market in that far more people get access to the best market opportunities. So that is fantastic. People do need to see it, but of course there are issues. So you can have a property manager sent out to go and video a place, and they'll deliberately miss certain spots that they know are bad. So certain defects, or I'm a big believer that more often it's competence is the issue rather than malice. So it's more likely that people just miss things, and so you can have someone go around with a camera and just happen to miss certain things. Of course, this can happen in person as well with your own eyes as a buyer, but as AI gets more sophisticated, what you could actually have is a piece of software that is checking that everything is being covered, that everything's being videoed, and it can be ticking loads and loads of boxes in the background. So as opposed to you as a buyer going through and you might have your 6 things that you look for, it could look for a vast array of other things, looking under the house and any piece of evidence that it can find. And also AI, like the kind of tech we have at Microburbs, often means that you don't need as much of a virtual tour because you know things about flooding and bushfire and public housing and noise. So there's other ways of getting this data, particularly data about not just the property, but what might come into the property, the nuisances, these risk factors can be taken in. So,
I'm fascinated to see how this augmented virtual inspection can happen, because I literally can't understand how it would work. Like, is it a drone that goes around, or like, you know what I mean? Like augmented virtual inspections, like it's
So on the
so far beyond my comprehension. Like, how would it get done?
Yeah, so at the first pass, there's already imaging being taken. So you've got Google Street View, you've got drones having flown around for property promotion, you've got satellite photos, you've got elevation and other scans that have been done. But then, absolutely, yes, you can have a drone potentially representing the buyer, so a buyer-specific drone that goes in and flies around and could replace the human that is moving around in a less standardized way. The camera could be pointing in all directions, so you've got a complete view. It's a bit funny with a camera to be constantly going like that everywhere. So a complete rendering of all surfaces that are visible and diving into places that ordinarily, like you wouldn't ordinarily ask an agent to get under the house for you, for example. But that's something
Or
that
in the
could
roof
easily,
as well.
or the roof. Very good point. Yeah. What's in the roof? Possums, pink bats, leakages. So
Rots.
open up the roof, send the drone through there, and you've got yourself a really good sense. Then get the drone to just fly up and take a snapshot of where it is. Like, are there issues with trees? What does the view look like from all different kinds of angles? So, and then all of this data is not just for a buyer to watch on a video, but then it can be given back to an AI to come up with what is the true value of the building, and how much, and then forecast actually how much is it going to cost to maintain if you put tenants in there. How much do you need to get it tenant ready if it's not tenant ready now, if it's in a dilapidated state and you want to charge a good rent?
It's amazing. It's just amazing, Luke. You know?
Yeah.
I remember the days of you buying the magazine, top 100 suburbs, and you go in the back of the magazines and look at it now. You know, you're doing augmented virtual reality in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And it'd probably analyze any moisture underneath the bats in the roof. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that word augmented.
Let's get on to another question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Amazing. answer. Thank you. So I want to talk about disruption now. How is AI disrupting the industry, both from real estate sales and property managers, and for us as buyers agents, for me as a buyer's agent? So do you want to comment on those three particular area or professionals, if you like?
Yeah, sure. So big subject. I'll say a couple of things. So obviously, first of all, as valuations get better, people increasingly trust the actual what's written down valuation. They don't rely on a property professional for that. And we know from the data that people contact real estate agents later and later in the actual buying process because of all the data that's available. So people are on realestate.com.au. They're signing up to sites like Microburbs, and getting all of this fantastic context. So there isn't a lot of trust in sellers agents. So if they can get data from another source, they go for it. Now, if we talk about chatbots, so they have a really big advantage in, I believe over time, you're already seeing this, people are starting to have relationships with chatbots. In fact, that's the number one thing now is company, the number one use of ChatGPT. And it's not just the person who you think is like totally unattractive to the dating market that is falling in love with them. It's also just people looking for health tips. I myself I ask it about diet and exercise all the time, and it knows my profile, and it's not I'm not falling in love with it. It's just gives me the most personalized answers for all the goals that I have. Yeah. So I definitely see a world in which chatbots know ever more about you, and they know your interests, they know your biases, they know your communication style, so they know how you should be spoken to, and they're actually extremely good at understanding that. I don't think people understand quite how powerful they are at all the different kinds of communication styles. Another thing is that they're available 24/7. So if people are obviously buying and selling property is a very anxiety producing thing. It's very high stakes. It's not super well regulated. You could make a really big mistake and it might cost you your financial future, or at least a hell of a lot of stamp duty to sell and buy another one. So being available in the middle of the night when you can't sleep to reassure you is something that a buyer's agent doesn't want to do. That no human wants to take a call. Not many humans want to take a call from a customer at 3 a.m.
No.
Compared to sellers agents, they can be seen as more objective as well. But they have numerous disadvantages as well. So they have zero. So just ChatGPT has zero ability to forecast the market. Yeah. So it reads a whole lot of text, real estate text. Yeah, and it's mostly promotional. Most of the stuff you read about in most suburbs is very positive. So the person writing it is also the person trying to get you in. It's the real estate agent.
Agenda. There's always a bias and an agenda in some article.
Yeah, so what it doesn't, it's just trying to predict the next word out of mostly promotional material. And, it can characterize suburbs a bit as well, but it actually it's not trained on trying to actually predict some future growth. That's not what Sam Altman, the CEO of ChatGPT, is worried about. He's not thinking about the Australian property market. He's thinking about...
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. It's interesting you say that. To confirm your point, there was an article in a mainstream newspaper online that talked about how a certain pocket of Brisbane was going to explode in value because of the Olympics. Now, when you get to the bottom, it became obvious that there was a developer who was about to sell 3,000 apartments in and around that area.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow. And to your point, if ChatGPT picked up on that, it wouldn't have realized there's going to be a massive supply issue coming up.
Yeah. The number of people that go around saying there's going to be a big supply issue in Brisbane is nothing like the number of people trying to sell each individual home, and the whole industry, all the people around it as well, that one way or another are benefiting from those sales. So some of it's simply just buyers agents responding to the demand for Brisbane. So it gets in people's heads first. It's good to buy in Brisbane because of the Olympics. Then they create content around that, and then it gets put out there. It's nothing to do with what's the history of Olympics, what do they do to the property market, or what's the history of major infrastructure. So Olympics have a bit of a spotted history. They don't necessarily. In Australia, we don't attract the kinds of crowds or viewing audience you do elsewhere because of time zone. That's a whole other story, right? But it's just an example of like, it's more complicated than you think, and you really got to be careful what your target metrics are. So yeah, poor ability to forecast the market. Another thing about chatbots is they're designed to go for consensus opinions on things. So, and they're always just trying to cover off. So for each word, they're thinking, what is the most likely? This is true. It's not the full story. I understand it better than this, but it's basically true. It's saying, what's the most likely next word? What's the most conventional answer to this problem? So they're uniquely badly designed for the kind of philosophy of go against the market. Yeah. So you actually go for where the growth might be a front runner. So they're designed not to be a front runner, but just to be, and of course there's a delay as well. So they are taking in, they're not up to date. So they're taking in text that's already been written, and at the moment it can be like years out of date. So the ability to actually like understand where markets are going, it's just not what they're designed for.
And so look, for people who want to engage a buyer's agent, then going on what you're talking about, someone like me and who wants to engage someone like me and the viewers that are looking at a buyer's agent, how do you think AI is going to interrupt that industry?
Yeah. So there's big advantages still, obviously. You have the human touch. So it's a person. I myself, even though I'm a big AI guy, I get the R&D tax incentive done by an actual consultant to do it. Because even though it costs a lot of money and I don't feel they have to do that much to do it, I still feel like a human is going to know extra stuff that beyond the AI. So there's still definitely a place for the human. And free information. So when you're comparing to like what's out there in the world in general, so you've got information that isn't free. So free information is the market already knows, and it isn't considered that valuable. So, and obviously you still have a massive edge in terms of knowing individuals, knowing real estate agents, knowing the talk, all these things that aren't published. But what does it mean in terms of how your job changes? I think that's more what you're getting to. So I think it means, like you do, John, you are very focused on data-driven tools. So for your average BA, it means if you're not standing on top of software rather than trying to ignore AI, then you're just going to look a bit silly because you're going to be off the mark. Your clients are just not going to get the results that you otherwise would. So I think moving forward, so that's today, what you're doing today, just using the tools to their utmost is best practice. But then beyond that, what happens further down the line, I think there will be a customer-facing bot that will be like an automated you that will be taking those 3 a.m. questions. So think of it as like first-level support, asking background questions, so questions that you don't need to answer. So it's like, oh, I heard that Townsville is going to have this new development here. And I heard this, I heard that, and I'm a bit worried about this, I'm a bit worried about that. And then it would be like answering factually to what you've learned, but it would still defer to you in terms of like the final decision, what the human decision is, like over and above what you're paying for with a buyer's agent.
Yeah. And I go back to something that's quite simple to relate as well, Luke, in addition to what you've said. Do you remember the days you spent 30 minutes on a phone call on hold to a telecom company or to a bank? Like, how good is it to be able to have an AI bot helping you just get through and get that stuff done?
Yeah,
you know?
Can you imagine if we were sent back in a time machine to the 1980s?
Yeah.
So we would just be so frustrated. It would feel like moving to a third world country.
Yeah.
It's
So can you imagine calling a professional 9 to 5 and waiting 30 minutes on the phone just to have someone answer you go, oh, you have to speak to this department. Like,
yeah,
it would just infuriate you. So to have an AI bot, like an AI like me, at least getting through that initial phase of whatever you wanted to do. Hey, John, I just needed to get that an understanding of the buyer's agency agreement. Can I go through that with you? I don't understand this part here. Like, rather than trying to come up with an appointment in 2 days' time, it just gets done straight away. So, yeah, thank you, Luke. Can I just move on to the last two questions, if I may? What are the biggest risks and ethical concerns associated with integrating advanced AI into the property market?
yeah. So a big one that is mentioned these days is a lot of these simpler algorithms all behave the same way. So there's a fair few forecasting providers out there that just try and encapsulate normal best practice. So just like the generalized rules of when you should invest in an area. So and they're copying one another. So what you end up with, and also that's amplified by all the narrative around it. Oh, look, they're saying this, they're saying all these people agree. And so you have these feedback loops where everyone buys into the area, but it's actually goes too far. And so people get stranded. They spend for too much and it has to come back down. So it pushes above. So for us, people ask us, oh, what do you think of such and such's forecast for this? And I'm like, we consider it independently. We've got our own independent algorithm, and it's not me telling it. It's not the opinion of Luke Metcalfe or even the general consensus of the real estate industry. It's just what the algorithm has found works, continues to, which is why we end up with quite different forecasts to our competitors, because it's done in this more ground up, first principles kind of way.
It's not a human bias. It's not your bias.
That's right.
It's not Luke telling it. It's
it's not human bias at the level of like, oh, I've heard the most persuasive people are saying buy into Townsville, and it's not even human bias at the level of, oh, everyone knows that it's this formula. This is the secret formula to working out to whether to buy into a suburb. It's neither of those. It's all driven by what the AI has found has delivered high capital growth over a 25-year period.
Yeah, yeah. And if I could get a bit geeky, the way I explain it to my clients is that there's a correlation coefficient with all the data metrics that points you into a certain demographic, and it's data that we can't process. It's just too hard. The computations, it's just too hard. Let the algorithm do it for you. Make it simple.
There's a lot going on with the shape of the curves and the interactions between them. So there's all of these rules and sub-rules that that the machine has found are resilient over time, and it's quite complex. It's not.
We could be here for hours. Yeah. All right, mate. I'm conscious that we're running out of time. One more question, if I may, and then we'll wrap it up, and I'll ask you how people can contact you. With major players investing heavily in AI, what could happen to smaller agencies or independent agents who just don't adopt?
Yeah, so if they don't adopt AI, I think they're in a lot of trouble. So on the one hand, you've got bigger agencies that have the scale to adopt major new tech. But I would be even more worried about the cogs in the machine at the bigger agencies, the ones that are doing regular stuff, the same stuff over and over, process-driven kinds of work, so they can get the first level stuff. Those people could find themselves becoming redundant in the industry, unfortunately. But for your minor players, if you do have a name for yourself, you've got authenticity, you've got a particular angle, then I think there is definitely still a place for you. And in fact, AI can be a big leveler because it's available to everyone, and
You don't need
data
deep pockets to
providers
compete.
like you do with Microburbs. So you don't need to have a big data team. You've just got access to this. So it's a democratizing force. So increasingly, you can have one-man businesses that you just need one person who is really good at the real estate market and really good with customers, and that's enough. So yeah, your smart buyers agents are going to use all these tools, so they don't need to hire lots of people and have economies of scale and find themselves going out of business because they didn't get enough business last month, but they've still got to make payroll.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny you should say that, Luke, because it was only recently I was listening to a podcast where we're going to see the advent of the first billionaire that's a one-man show. I don't know if you've been hearing that, but
Yes.
yeah, time and time again, because the bots, there's going to be bots for your HR, bots for your marketing, bots for your sales, and like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm not judging it, but I just thought, wow, this is what a time to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. So you might need only a small number of people running the show. In fact, you probably won't need an HR bot because you don't need HR for one person, right?
Yeah, true. There you go. Yeah, yeah. All right, Luke. That's we can keep going on. We might do a second session on AI, but I want to
Absolutely.
thank you. Yeah. Luke, how do people get in contact with you and purchase one of your amazing reports?
Yeah, microburbs.com.au. We've got suburb reports, property reports. You can get subscriptions where you get a whole lot of them for free. Yeah, just go to Microburbs and it's all laid out what you can get there. And John, how about you? How do people get in contact?
Oh, thank you. John at Hunterwood, one word, john at hunterwood.com.au. There's the three divisions. There's a finance, so if you only need finance. There's a buyer's agency division where we can just go out and find the properties using Microburbs and so forth. And then lastly, the education and mentoring division where if you want me to teach you how to do it yourself, more than happy to help Australians. So, Luke, thank you so much. I look forward to the next podcast. It's always fascinating sessions. So thank you again, mate. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you next time.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure.